Hi, everyone. My name is Kurt Bauer, President and CEO of Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, Wisconsin's combined state chamber of commerce and state manufacturers association. I'm honored to welcome you to the National Association of Manufacturers State of Manufacturing Address at Husco International in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Manufacturing is Wisconsin's top economic sector, accounting for nearly 20% of state GDP and 480,000 good-paying jobs. In Wisconsin, we call manufacturing the state's super sector because of the unmatched multiplier effect manufacturing jobs have across our state. Wisconsin manufacturers contribute to the vitality of our state through their innovation, productivity, and commitment to customer satisfaction. Unfortunately, despite the hard work of our manufacturers, the economic climate in our nation remains uncertain. A recent survey conducted by WMC found that 60% of Wisconsin businesses believe that the state's economy will enter recession this year, and only 25% of businesses anticipate U.S. economic growth over the next 6 months. But the biggest challenge is labor. 85% of Wisconsin business leaders say they can't find the workers they need. But we must not let this uncertainty dampen our spirit. Wisconsin manufacturers have always been resilient and resourceful and will continue to fight to build a more competitive manufacturing industry. I encourage you to take the message you will hear today and communicate it to your team members, lawmakers, and other opinion leaders. I want to extend a special thank you to Husco International for hosting this important event, and especially to my friend, Jay Timmons, the President and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, for his leadership and commitment to U.S. manufacturing. While we face many challenges, we are also in the enviable position of controlling our destiny, as long as we work together to create a shared vision of prosperity and an action plan to achieve it. Thank you. And our program starts now.
Of Husco. Husco is a family-owned business based here in Waukesha, Wisconsin, but with operations all around the world. We design and manufacture high-performance hydraulic and electromechanical components for automotive and off-highway applications. Some of our incredible team members are here with us this morning, and I'm just so proud of this team that shows up every day to serve our customers with excellence. Everybody here at Husco is committed to building a great business, but what really gets us excited is the fact that our products are making the world safer, greener, and more productive. And beyond that, we are leveraging our success as a business to make our community a better place for everyone. As a board member of the National Association of Manufacturers, I'm honored that Husco is hosting the 2023 NAM State of Manufacturing Address. We are here to shine a spotlight on the amazing, life-changing work that manufacturers do every day. We are the backbone of the American economy, and we are proud of it. 2 weeks ago, the President delivered his State of the Union address. Manufacturing was front and center. Few industries bring Republicans, Democrats, and independents together like manufacturing, and we wouldn't have it any other way. But we want more than words. We want elected leaders that are focused on delivering real solutions, not just name-calling and partisan fighting. We want to keep growing and keep winning. So what do we need to accomplish that? How are manufacturers going to be part of the solution? How do we succeed in an uncertain world? That's what the NAM State of Manufacturing Address is all about. Delivering that address is my great friend, Jay Timmons. Jay is the president and CEO of the NAM, which is the largest manufacturing association in the United States. They advocate for 13 million people who make things in America, at family-run firms, at iconic global brands, and everything in between. They make sure we have the tools and policies to succeed. Manufacturers couldn't ask for a better champion than the NAM, so whether you're here with us in Milwaukee or watching online across America, please join me in welcoming Jay Timmons for this year's NAM State of Manufacturing Address.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Husco, for welcoming us here today in Austin. Thank you for the great introduction. You're such an inspirational leader, not only for Husco, but as I hope everyone here knows, Austin is a champion for the entire manufacturing industry. So I'd also like to recognize Kurt Bauer, who is the CEO of the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. That's the NAM's official state partner here in Wisconsin. And Kurt, once again, thanks for welcoming us here to Wisconsin and also for your unparalleled leadership. And I'd like to also welcome everyone who is joining us today virtually. I think there's no better example, and you heard this coming through in Austin's comments, no example of the drive, the talent, and the strength of the manufacturing industry than the people right here in this room, and also manufacturing team members like them all across America. You're part of a force for good that is 13 million people strong and growing, by the way. You're the economic engine of this country, a country that is a beacon for freedom and democracy for the entire world. And we're seeing that play out on the world stage right this minute as President Biden is visiting Ukraine and Poland. And when you strengthen this country with your work, you're strengthening the values that will shape the future of humankind. I'm reminded that 1 year ago this week, the world witnessed Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. Our country and our industry have come to the aid of people in Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, in extraordinary ways. That fight is more than a war between two countries. It is a struggle between freedom and tyranny. There are two systems that are evolving in this world. One, though not perfect, has enriched our lives and lifted people up into freedom and prosperity more than any other system in the history of the world, and that is our system. And then there's the system that is oppressive and robs people of their very humanity and their dignity. America is indeed a light, a beacon to the world, and as part of this industry, you help keep that light shining brightly. So despite everything happening around us, like the threat of a recession and global conflict, manufacturers are still leading the way forward. And although our industry and our country will need to make audacious and, yes, sometimes uncomfortable changes to adapt to economic, political, and global challenges, I'm confident in reporting to you that the state of manufacturing in America remains steadfast and resolute. Now, if you want to know what that looks like, just look around. Some of you weren't born in the United States. You chose to be here because of opportunity. Husco welcomed you because they know skilled, dedicated workers have many diverse backgrounds and experiences, and that you make our country stronger. I understand that 5 years ago, a strong contingent of Burmese team members joined Husco after fleeing violence in their country and are now an integral part of this company's success. More recently, Austin told me that after months of trying to hire second shift positions with limited results, Husco leapt at the chance to recruit refugees from Afghanistan. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Husco, and thank you for that, Austin. And I heard about how Hamza and Baitullah have worked as interpreters, helping you to bring even more Afghan refugees onto the team. For so many manufacturers in America right now, there are more open jobs than there are people to fill them. One of the many ways we fill those jobs and keep our economy moving is welcoming immigrants into our workforce, just like you have, and just like we have in the past, to build a stronger and more prosperous America. So why? Why would we want to reduce legal immigration and let our population shrink, let our economy shrink? Manufacturers all over the country have taken a leadership role in their communities to be part of the solution. Some have even provided resources such as legal support to navigate the road to citizenship, financial services, and classes to learn English. Manufacturers, well, they've put out a great big welcome mat. Unfortunately, not everybody and not everyone has the resources or an extensive support network. And our government, quite frankly, our government is not making this process any easier. We have a huge backlog of people waiting for visas or work authorization from the United States. So let's change that. Anyone who has fled a brutal war and is seeking safety from Afghanistan, Ukraine, or the next conflict, they shouldn't have to wait to work if they're here legally. And for those who come here to seek asylum and who have a legitimate claim, their average wait time is 4 years or more. And that's only expected to grow. So let's significantly shorten the process and make it more orderly and aligned with our values. Nearly 800,000 manufacturing jobs are open right now. 800,000. So we simply can't wait. What's the bottom line? Well, the bottom line is we know that between this and the crisis at our border, our immigration system is broken. Broken. But we can fix it. And coincidentally, manufacturers have a plan. It's called A Way Forward, because that's what it provides. And if Congress does act, well, guess what? We can address our border crisis. We can fill more jobs. We can strengthen our economy, and we can raise the quality of life for all Americans. Our country will be stronger if we provide legal avenues that give people a chance to start new lives in America. But like I said, immigration isn't the only way we solve the workforce crisis. It also requires companies to offer the best possible benefits and to show that our industry is purpose-driven and that we care for everyone's well-being. We see that here through a program called Husco Scholars. Husco works with both 2- and 4-year college systems to recruit talented high school students to work at Husco full-time while they pursue technical or engineering degrees. These students ultimately graduate with money in the bank and years of industry experience to take with them. We also see that in companies like Vermeer, which makes tractors and heavy equipment over in Pella, Iowa. Vermeer built a child care facility that serves the whole community, as well as an on-site healthcare clinic and pharmacy to keep its team members healthy. Manufacturers are dedicated to doing the right things for their employees, but I got to tell you, it sure is harder for them to do that when Congress lets taxes go up on businesses, especially small companies. That's exactly what Congress did at the end of 2022. Companies used to get bigger deductions for things like research and development, or for buying new machines that make jobs safer and easier, and the air cleaner. As someone at Vermeer told me recently, it's millions in additional tax. That means less new machinery, less research. And meanwhile, China is giving manufacturing companies that are located there a 200% deduction for research and development. And that's 20 times as much as what we give here in America. So here's the challenge to the Biden administration and Democrats and Republicans in Congress. Let's turn the tables. Let's turn the tables and let's make it easier for America to out-innovate China. You know, after tax reform in 2017, manufacturers, we kept our promises. We kept our promises and we invested in our teams and we invested in communities all across the board. Miles Fiberglass in Clackamas, Oregon, for example, it gave its team a 9% wage increase after tax reform, and that's similar to what many other companies did. So why would we want to go backward? The NAM is determined to get Congress to restore those incentives for R&D and to get business tax rates and the tax structure back on track to allow us to compete globally. And then let's lock in those competitive rates for small businesses like Husco so that you can plan more confidently for the future instead of facing a staggering tax increase in the year 2026. We have an obligation to do better than that. And Austin, I pledge to you, for small companies all across this country, the NAM will never stop fighting to make you and all of them more competitive. Now let's turn back to China. We do have to get more serious about outcompeting them, and when we do, we can secure more jobs right here in America. Think about Night Eyes. Night Eyes is a small manufacturer that makes utility gear in Boulder, Colorado. Night Eyes has to be on guard against counterfeits constantly. In 1 year alone, I want you to think about this statistic. In 1 year alone, they had to take down more than 75,000 counterfeit listings and websites. Counterfeiting is a problem of epidemic proportions. The NAM's research shows that in 2019 alone, counterfeit cost businesses across the United States $131 billion and 325,000 American jobs. 87% of counterfeit products seized at our borders in 2019, 87% of those came from China. You know, there's been a lot of attention lately on China and potential national security threats. But it's important to remember that our economic security and our national security are intrinsically linked. So if we're going to counter China, then we must hold China accountable for the trade commitments it already has made to the United States. And we have to forge ambitious, cutting-edge trade agreements with our allies. Other countries aren't waiting around. They're simply not. So let's think big and let's think bold. Another way we win in this global competition is to speed up the construction of new projects right here in America. Our key priority for manufacturers this year is pushing Congress to pass a bill that reforms the permitting process. Now, permitting reform means making it easier to get permission to build that new road or that new power plant, or for manufacturers to build new facilities. Why in the 21st century should it take 5 to 10 years just to approve construction of highways that move your products? Or to build the power plants that will supply more sustainable electricity to your factories and to your homes? If Washington could just cut through the bureaucracy and streamline processes like you do in your business every single day, well, we could do a whole lot more for this country. Look, we can still set very high standards for ourselves, and we should. Let's just modernize that process. Fewer delays, fewer needless lawsuits. It's not about cutting corners. It's about keeping up with the world around us. And while we're at it, we're going to tell the EPA that manufacturers are already leading to clean our air. The government shouldn't enact rules that, however well-intentioned they are, would make it more difficult to achieve our environmental goals, or which would slow our economic growth and push us closer toward recession. In fact, the NAM is launching a nationwide campaign to tell regulators to protect manufacturers and not change these standards before fully implementing some that are already on the books. Because our industry will always stick to its mission, making products that make life better for all Americans and for the entire world. And that, my friends, that is our story. The story of manufacturing in America is one of resilience, defying the odds. All manufacturers ask is that in Washington, when it comes to policy, don't stack the odds against us. That's our message to Congress and to federal agencies. You know, we're here in Husco's hub, your break room. And I imagine that most of the time when the Husco team is here, you're probably talking more about how great the Badgers are looking this year, but not as good as the Buckeyes, just saying. Rather than talking about things like tax policy or permitting reforms or the rules of international trade, because if you're doing that, it's probably one really boring lunch. But our job at the NAM is to help lawmakers see that the decisions they make on those issues that we've just talked about matter to teams like yours. It's about how it directly affects what goes on here and in communities all across our great country. We can see what happens when Washington comes together to make all of us stronger. In just the past 2 years, in fact, the achievements like the infrastructure law and the CHIPS and Science Act, they're already making life better for families and helping us create new manufacturing jobs. And quite honestly, we need more of that. And for anyone out there watching this virtually, we've got the resources for you to find those pathways to the great careers we've been talking about. Just visit creatorswanted.org. That's the NAM and the Manufacturing Institute's largest national campaign to grow the manufacturing workforce of today and tomorrow, and we invite you to be a part of that. I said earlier that manufacturing is a force for good in the world, and it's not only what you make, it's your example. Whether you're new to this country or if you've been a part of this community's success for decades, you inspire others with your hard work and your dedication to the values that have made this country exceptional. Free enterprise, competitiveness, individual liberty, and equal opportunity. History shows us that as long as manufacturers lead the way, America and our democracy will remain that beacon of freedom and hope for people around the world. Manufacturers have been and always will be, in word and in deed, the arsenal of democracy. And working together, I know that we're going to keep this a manufacturing decade. I'm confident we can move steadfast and resolute into a future of even greater promise and possibility. And because of that, you can take pride every day that you walk onto that shop floor. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you so much for your inspiration and your leadership. And thank you for having me here today.